construction of those residences and village houses continues. AFAD also continues to work on entitlements. Until now, AFAD has built 390,000 residences, 40,000 workplaces, and 11,500 barns, and entitled 441,500 independent sections. Draws for 45,901 houses were held in the first 10 days of February, and will be held for 30,000 more houses until mid-March. In the next 2 months, the lots for a total of 75,000 houses will be completed.
Well, I'm pleased to say we can discuss the political side of all this a bit further with Zuhal Mert Uzuner, who joins us from right here in Istanbul. She's an associate professor of political science at Marmara University. Thank you so much for coming on the show. What is the feeling in Türkiye now around how the government handled the earthquakes in the immediate aftermath, but also now, 1 year on?
After 1 year, still we feel the impact of this disaster. At the end, it's a huge, very big disaster, which created, of course, first of all, a great sadness, and of course, also a very important economic the burden. And all of them are still very heavy and very fresh, maybe in our memories. So we are talking and thinking about this issue again and again from different aspects, but of course the political aspect is one of the most important one, and it's not only related with domestic politics. We are still in every platform discussing about what we can do about this kind of let's say the disasters, how we may overcome by coming together in our region. So the emergency response is very important political matter, especially after this disastrous earthquake. We remember it very strikingly.
And what is the overriding sentiment on how the government did respond in those initial days and weeks, and then now a year on? What do people make of it?
First of all, the people need some basic stuff. So the first need is, of course, the shelter. And from that approach, we know that the government tries to build some, let's say, the blocks and some houses for these people, and it is quite successful when you look at the numbers, because these things are not so easy practices, and despite all these different difficulties, we know that as a result of a common social, let's say, cooperation, there was a success story. So today we experienced this opening ceremony of these houses for the delivering of the keys to the owners of these houses is in front of us. So this is a kind of success. We can say that it will continue, but it's not an easy process. You can imagine how expensive is building only one block, and we are talking about a huge city, and not only one city. You were talking about 11 different provinces, all were ruined, and it has also infrastructure dimension. So this is a huge project, but I'm sure slowly but successfully this process will be completed.
And there are also ongoing investigations around the safety of the buildings which collapsed and whether or not they were adhering to safety standards. What more can you tell me about those investigations and how they're progressing?
Actually, this is a very technical issue, and this investigations needs time, of course, and that it needs laboratory, the experiment. So it's the time-consuming issue, and it's not only related with this region. We are talking about also being safe, or a kind of having a kind of resilience against such kind of the disasters. So it's in progress, we can say, but of course it's very technical, and it's maybe beyond from the political science dimension.
And how confident can people be that their new houses are going to be earthquake-proof? We've seen how quickly some of them have gone up. That might make some people feel nervous. Do you think that they can be confident, given the government have promised that they will be safe?
It is very psychological issue. We know all of us, especially in Istanbul, there is a risk of earthquake, and most of the buildings are under that threat. And it is, yes, you are right. It's purely political, and it must be a kind of social and political, let's say, the cooperation issue. But it's not going so successful when you look at the realities. At the end, there are some other interests, and most of them are, as you can imagine, much more related with politics. So that must go much, let's say, sincerely. I'm sure that these days before the local elections, it's a very important issue. And not only that issue, maybe we are talking about, okay, having a resistance against earthquake, but not only about that. So we are talking about some other issues like wars and being ready against any kind of attack. So creation some other, let's say, the mechanisms to defend safety of the people. So this is very important and a political issue, but of course, it has also the psychological perspective. How you may feel yourself secure is very difficult, especially if you experience such a big disaster, if you stayed under these rubbles. So maybe people may not feel so safe to go back there. So this is very important to understand that the public authorities needs to be very transparent to show the people that these experiments and all these constructions are very safe and very under control. Maybe this is very important to understand. Is transparency and having good conduct with people is very important. Maybe much more inclusive mechanisms can be designed for giving people more, feeling of the security. So we may briefly say this.
All right, that was Zuhal Mert Uzuner from Marmara University right here in Istanbul. Thank you for joining us.